Esa es una... ¿Cuál es una serie? Ah, yeah, sure. Again, example. When I will make a great statement, no? But I was told that everybody de facto speaks English, so it's not me. Okay.
Very much ashamed that I could follow everything you said, but I cannot speak. All I can say is compañeras, compañeros, a la victoria. But seriously, I would like nonetheless to improvise a little bit. Why am I so crazy as for communism, and why am I really proud to be here at the university? I hope you will agree with me about something. That if people ask me what is the diagnostic of our state of things in the world today, my first association is, maybe you know it, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, a wonderful, it's probably an apocryphal story, but as they say in Italian, se non è vero è ben trovato. According to this story, in the First World War, the so-called in France, la Grande Guerre, there was in 1916 an exchange of telegrams between German and Austrian Empire general headquarters of the army. And the German telegram to Vienna was, the situation with us is serious but not catastrophic. The Austrians, as you know, answered, the situation with us is catastrophic but not serious. I mean, this is how I think ideology today works. We all know it's potentially at least catastrophic, but we somehow cannot take it seriously. Life just goes on and so on and so on. And I really think that we live in interesting times, but in the Chinese sense, you know, that in China, so I was told, if you really hate someone, the curse to tell him is, may you live in interesting times. Sorry, not you, because you know, interesting times are times of war, mass events, and so on. You know what intrigues me today in these interesting times is that basically we do not know where we really stand. Things are happening which are even, I'm tempted to say, affecting the very essence of what does it mean to be a human being. Think about biogenetic, you mentioned already my topics, the biogenetic researches and so on. The moment we will be able, and we are almost there, to control, change, manipulate even our psychic properties, what will it still mean to be a human being, to be free, and so on and so on? I was in China a year ago, and I met some representative of their big biogenetic institute, and he gave me a text which I consider pretty horrible. The official proclamation of the goals of their biogenetic institute. And you know, one item was that the ultimate aim of biogenetic research is to control and regulate for the good of Chinese people the physical, biological, and psychic properties of the Chinese people. I mean, you know, things are changing here, and you cannot react like, unfortunately, Habermas did, who adopted a conservative Catholic stance, which is, it's dangerous to do it, so let's prohibit it. It will not work like that. This is one problem. Second problem, ecology. My God, look at Japan today and so on. It's things, how will we react to more and more unpredictable events? Why? I'm not saying the earth is going crazy, although I think, with all my respect for your across the hills president, not yours, of the Evo Morales, across the hills, you know, I respect him, but when he wrote a year or two ago that letter to the world leaders how capitalism is destroying Mother Earth, well, maybe, but I don't believe in Mother Earth. if Mother Earth exists, she's a dirty bitch. I mean, we can see in Japan now, no? I mean, the situation is much more tragic. There is no natural balance to which we should return. We live totally in the open. So, what's my idea that, now that I start enumerating them, this is for me, and only this, I repeat it, why I, as in an act of madness, insist on the term communism. Don't be afraid. I lived in a communist country. I was unemployed there. I was kind of a dissident, not arrested, but jobless for years and so on. So I have no illusion of that communism. I'm not saying bring some Leninist communist party here. What I'm saying is something much simpler, that even my conservative friends or people whom I know agree with me. Like, take Fukuyama, who became infamous by that statement, the end of history. I met him recently. He told me, already with biogenetics, I know that dream is over. It changes everything. So what I'm claiming is that we are confronting a series of, enumerated kindly by you, a series of problems. First, ecology, biogenetics, then I claim the problem of intellectual property. It's clear that capitalism cannot deal with it. It provokes a constant crisis. Then the new forms of apartheid. What I fear is two things. First, that in classical Marxist perspective, capitalism demanded legal equality. You know, we are all politically equal, free, but exploitation takes place in a free deal between, let's say, you are the owner, I am the worker, and so on. But it looks as if today capitalism more and more cannot sustain even this legal equality. So more and more in Europe, much more than with you, we have this problem of what Giorgio Agamben calls homo sacer, or the living dead, those who are alive but with no proper place in our public political space, which creates incredible tensions. The other thing, I'm not phobic about China, great things are happening there, but I think that with what we poetically call capitalism with Asiatic values, which means called simply authoritarian capitalism, something that should make us worry is happening. Let's be very clear. Till now, there was one good argument for capitalism. You had 10, 20, 30 years of dictatorship, but then sooner or later, capitalism did generate, when things started to function, some kind of demand for democracy. What makes me worry is that it all started in Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew, I agree with my right-wing friend, but I'm friends with him, I have strange friends, Peter Sloterdijk, who, this is a wonderful story, some journalists asked him, Sloterdijk, who do you think the person is to whom they will build monuments 100 years from now, in the future? Sloterdijk said, Lee Kuan Yew. You know who was he? The founding president of Singapore, who invented authoritarian capitalism, no? This formula of capitalism which functions with more authoritarian power. And do you know that when Deng Xiaoping started his reforms, he visited Singapore and he says this should be the model for all of China and so on. Is it not that what makes me afraid is that we are seeing now a capitalism much more efficient economically, maybe, at least in the short term, than Western liberal capitalism, but which no longer creates such a strong demand for democracy. What I worry is that this eternal marriage between capitalism and democracy is maybe approaching an end. Now, I'm not saying back to the Communist Party and so on. All I'm saying is that we have problems for which I doubt that it will be possible to solve them within liberal capitalist frame. I'm definitely not saying back to communism of the 20th century. This is madness. If anything, these problems like ecology were treated even in a worse way, like in communist countries, in ex-communist countries. All I'm saying is, let's be a little bit more modest. You know, like what is happening today? What is happening in China? Is this a new form of capitalism, a new form of communism? I don't think we really have a theory. Only old liberals or old dogmatic Marxists pretend that they know what's going on. I don't know. We have, did you notice how we have many journalistic catchwords? Post-industrial society, society of risk, information society, that try to recapture this new thing. I think this is not yet a true understanding. These are more journalistic phrases. So now I come back about where we are here, university. I think that today it's not the left, it is Bill Gates and so on who talk this language of don't you university, don't live only in your ivory tower, deal with real life, people are suffering and so on. No, more than ever, I claim. Today we need independent critical thinking. Not to grow terrorists and subversive, but simply to really understand where we are going, my God. For example, what does biogenetics means for our daily life 50 years from now? It's obvious that neither this naive optimism, oh, we will become eternal being, just software programs, immortal, or the opposite, pessimism, we will turn into robots or whatever, they are not enough. We really have to start to think. Or at the level of capitalism, how can we imagine an alternative which will not end again in a catastrophe like 20th century communism and so on and so on. The time for thinking is now. Don't be blackmailed by this. I'm here trying to give hope to all of us, a little bit egotistically, university people. Don't feel bad when they tell you, oh, you are spending our money and so on. I don't know how it is here, but in Europe, if your superego is telling me, stop, I will. Don't talk too much. I want to finish with this. In Europe, we are now doing a self-inflicted catastrophe. The name of this catastrophe is so-called Bologna, named after the city, high education reform. I think it's horrible. To simplify it, the goal is to render higher education functional, as they put it. It must be here to solve problems and so on. What does it mean is that they want to make us only experts. The idea is don't do some useless speculations. When we have a problem, come with the solutions. Sorry, this is not thinking. Thinking is not solving problems. Thinking is formulating problems. The problem today is that many problems, which are real problems, are already perceived, formulated in the wrong way. We need precisely what may appear as useless thinking, and so on, and so on. So to conclude, maybe you know this story, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, I would like to say, yes, I am a Leninist, but in a very specific, ironic sense. When I was young, I lived in a communist country. In every classroom, I'm sorry if you know the story, there was this big saying by Lenin. Lenin's advice to young people, learn, learn, and learn. No? So there was a wonderful political joke in ex-communist countries. I think if there is anything for which I have nostalgia from times of communism was excellent political jokes. They disappeared now. Which is that it takes place against the background of this joke. You know, this typical joke situation. They bring together Marx, Engels, Lenin, and ask each of them, what would you prefer to have, a wife or a mistress? Marx says he was more conservative, a wife. Engels was more a bon vivant, he says a mistress. Lenin says, I want both. Everybody is shocked, you know, because Lenin was known to be ascetic, you know, like he's secretly a hedonist or what. They asked him why. Lenin said, because so that I can tell to my mistress that I have to be with my wife, and I can tell to my wife that I have to be with my mistress. Then they asked him, okay, but what do you then do really? And Lenin says, learn, learn, learn. If we say wife means ordinary career life and mistress means radical transgression and so on, maybe we need to be ladies here, you know. Like, say to the wife, I'm with mistress, mistress, I'm with wife, and think, learn, learn, and learn. Or to go to the end, to avoid my naive leftist friends. If in the past we liked that Marxist thesis 11, philosophers have only interpreted the world, the time is to change it. Maybe if you want to be really a Marxist today, we should risk and turn it around and say, in the 20th century, maybe we tried too fast to change the world. The time has come to interpret it a little bit more, to understand it really. I repeat it, we do not really know where we are. And we are approaching times, like take biogenetics. Why they cause so much anxiety? Because you cannot simply, that's the horror, apply old traditional ethical rules. The situation is totally a new one. Like, imagine you are caught in a debate about abortion. You have to de facto act as a philosopher. In order to adopt a situation for or against, you should really adopt a philosophical position about, you know, do I have an immortal soul, and so and not. And you can see the confusion, how contradictory the answers are. For example, many of my Catholic friends, they tell me, no, we shouldn't do biogenetic experiments on the brain, because a man, a human being, is not only a genetic animal, but has an immortal soul. You see the inconsistency of this answer. If you really believe that you have an immortal soul, then you should say, do whatever you want with my brain, you cannot touch my soul. It's beneath this assurance, immortal soul, is the fear that nonetheless you can touch something through genetics. So the problems are open here. So if precisely in interesting times like today, I think a lot depends on us, much more than you may think. Don't believe today's cynical ideology which says ideology is behind us, it's just money, business, productivity, and so on and so on. If there is a lesson from 20th century, is that cynics, those who say distrust ideology, just think about that cynics are always wrong. The truly naive people are the cynics. And the last thing, I'm very proud to be here in a country like Peru, because, you know, we may find some aspects of globalization, but there are good things about globalization. The fact that I'm here is an effect of globalization. Or, to give you another example, as every corrupted, okay, not really intellectual, I like detective novels. Globalization is wonderful. Now, you know, till 30 years ago, detective novels happened where? England, America, maybe France. Now you have detective novels, I don't know if you have your own, but I know detective novels which take place in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, in Buenos Aires, in Europe. You have now Iceland, Sweden, and so on. And this is globalization. Every small local culture has access to global space, like in cinema. It's Romanian cinema, it's South Korean cinema, and so on. I think we should use this opportunity. The nice thing is that although, unfortunately, I speak English here, but I think that the ultimate loser of globalization will be English language. You know why? Because we all speak English, but as old conservative English professors know, this English, which is becoming lingua franca, it's a kind of a pidgin English whose model are not Englishmen, but probably some Chinese merchant in Singapore or whatever, no? So a new international English is emerging which will replace the real English. So let's grab this opportunity, and this is for me, again, the hope opened by the space of globalization, that bypassing the big American academia where Norte Americano, where they think they are the center of the world, but they are not. We can directly communicate, create a common space. That's why I am really proud to be here. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry if I was too long, but at least you learned why some of my friends call me Fidel. Not because of politics, but you know, Fidel Castro, like, comrades, 10 minutes of remarks, and then if he is tired, it's only 4 hours. No. Thank you for your patience, and sorry for the delay. It was not intended. I hate people who are late. Thank you.